Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the College Football Edition. And as always, for the College Football Edition of this podcast, I'm your host, Tom Dougherty. This podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And we are getting closer and closer, folks. Closer and closer and closer. Tomorrow marks exactly 7 days, 1 week, one measly week, until all of your questions will be answered by your favorite commissioner in the NFL, right? Mr. Roger Goodell will answer all your questions when he walks up onto that stage 32 times on Thursday to read off the names that will be selected into the NFL for the first round, in the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday next week in Dallas. Lots of stuff to talk about regarding all of those prospects. I know we've talked about it on the show almost to ad nauseum, which is just awesome because we love college football and we love the fact that this is, again, that meshing point between the NFL and college football, the draft. Such a nice thing, just so nice to think about. All these quarterbacks, all these receivers, or no, not receivers. It's not the David receiver draft, actually. There's like two. And we're actually going to highlight one of them today, Christian Kirk, a little profile on him. But you have a big, deep running back class is what I wanted to say. Big, deep running back class. And then you have the quarterbacks, obviously, that everybody's been talking about. And whether you like Chosen Rosen or Sam Darnold, or if you're a Baker Mayfield fan, or you like the big arm on Josh Allen. Or maybe you think that none of them, or maybe you think none of them are going to be as good as Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's going to be a guy who can be a flash in the pan surprise. Maybe a team with a good offense already, a team that has a good offense or coaching staff, a good offensive scheme in place that could help Lamar get into the NFL well and maybe sit behind a good quarterback for a year or two, like maybe in Pittsburgh or in Seattle or in New Orleans. I know that there has been reports coming out. Sean Payton was quoted in saying that he didn't really like any of the quarterbacks actually that were coming out in this draft, and if he had to pick one that wasn't gonna, he wouldn't be surprised that if none of them were still playing or were really big factors in 4 to 5 years, and the only one that could maybe be the guy who to get through the gauntlet that is the NFL and be a good quarterback would be Sam Darnold. He said I don't see any Andrew Luck or Carson Wentz's in this draft, so maybe we're overhyping it. I don't think it's maybe. I think we're definitely overhyping this draft quite a bit before it happens, especially on the quarterbacks. And the running backs, I think, is undersold. The fact, I've gone over all the running backs a lot on this show. If you haven't heard it, go tune into the shows last week. I did a lot of running backs, running back news coming into, and just kind of reviewing the different running backs that are coming into the draft, whether it's obviously we all know about Saquon Barkley, but there's going to be a guy named Darius Geis who's going to be really good coming out of LSU. You got Kerryon Johnson, you got Ronald Jones Jr., you got the two guys from from Georgia, Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb. You can't go wrong with, I think, any of those guys. It's such a deep draft. when it comes to the running backs. And then the quarterbacks, obviously, quarterback is different. Quarterback is just such a different position. It's the hardest position in football for a reason. You could have all the talent in the world. You could be Josh Rosen and just have flawless mechanics and just have the ball come out of your hand. But if you don't have it between the ears, I know they had ESPN the magazine came out with their draft day, pre-draft edition of their magazine. Their pre-draft issue, I'm trying to say, and they had Josh Rosen on the front of the cover because Josh Rosen did a big interview with the writer from ESPN the magazine, and he said that, I mean, yes, I'm from an affluent family, but like I think I talked about this on my last show. The fact that he said that, yeah, I don't really need football, but because I give myself to it and because I am so passionate about it, is just goes to show you that I'm in all 100%. I don't need it, but I still do it because I love it so much. I mean, it's some great sentiment there, but this is a job interview for a lot of these kids. I mean, I may say kids, but they're same age. But I mean, they're all, Baker Mayfield's a little older. But all these guys, this is a job interview for them. And the last thing you want to say in a job interview is that you don't need the job. Oh, I don't need it, but I love doing it so much. I mean, I could just go, I have a backup plan. I got a 4.3 in high school, whatever. I don't know. I could look up what was his major at UCLA, and he could go be a doctor like his dad or a journalist like his mom. I mean, they're definitely from an affluent family. And he came out and said that he doesn't need it, but because I'm so good at football, basically, I just continue on playing because I do something I'm good at. What was his major? Economics. There you go. He can go be at economics. Go work on Wall Street or something if he wanted to. If football doesn't work out for him. So Bill Parcells. If he always said, if you show me a guy with a good plan B, you show me a guy who probably should take that plan B. So if you're Josh Rosen, you might just want to be like, you know what, I need football because I love football and I want football in my life, and because I love playing it and is passionate about it. Versus like, it's coming out and saying I don't need it. So, I mean, the one thing I'm worried about him is definitely the durability level in between the ears as well, because he has had injuries in college already, and getting into the NFL and getting banged around out there with those guys. I mean, imagine having J.J. Watt running at you, or Khalil Mack, or these guys. I mean, even Von Miller isn't the biggest guy, but he's a fast guy, and he can get around that corner and come and knock your teeth out in a split second. I mean, hopefully he's got to get on a team with a good offensive line, Mr. Rosen, because if you don't, you're going to be running for your life, and you might get dinged up quite a bit in this league. You might want to just, hang him up. I don't want to get hurt this much. I'm not trying to get hurt this much. I'm just going to go be a stockbroker or something, or whatever you would want to do, because you're an economics major and you're probably pretty good at it because you're a smart kid. But the NFL, we'll find out. We're all going to find out. One more week. I have three more shows until the draft, so we're going to definitely do a lot of draft prep on Monday and Wednesday, talking about some people that you will likely be seeing. Maybe don't get as much hubbub on the big shows because of all these quarterbacks that grab all the attention of the big networks to cover them up, and definitely give all their insights on all the different quarterbacks. Oh, which team's going to go? Which team's going to trade? Or which team's going to like this? Which team's going to like that? So, this is all taking up kind of all my first segment here on this show. I didn't really give you the rundown of what we're going to do, but I was kind of planning to do my little college football rant on the draft in the first segment. In the second segment, we're going to go over some college football news, some reports that happened, some off the field stuff that should be talked about, some police action that's been going on around the college football world and involving I talked about it on the last show, the Florida State quarterback, and then also some stuff going on with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. In the third segment, we're going to go over some of these players, especially some of these guys that like Christian Kirk and Shaquem Griffin I talked about last show. The fact that he's probably going to get picked by the third round. We're going to go over some other guys that maybe you haven't quite heard of or gotten as much gotten much press and coverage, especially a couple quarterbacks that we haven't talked about that much. So we'll get to all those. Definitely one quarterback, some other stuff, some defensive players as well. So we'll do that on the third segment. And then the fourth segment, we're just going to go over, probably talk about more draft stuff. I'm going to get on my soapbox again and talk about how the Browns need to take Sam Darnold in the first pick. There's even been reports out saying that the Browns are going to take a quarterback in with both of their picks, which is absolutely crazy. If you're sitting here as a neutral person like me, I mean, the last thing you want if you're a young quarterback getting picked first overall is another young quarterback just sitting there looking over your shoulder. Hey, I'm also a first round pick too, buddy. What's up? Like, we're battling it out now. Like, what are you going to do? Cut the other one? You're going to make one back up? I mean, it's just very interesting. I mean, obviously, there's just reports coming out. There's also been reports out for the last month that they're going to take Saquon Barkley first overall. So, it's just, we don't know. Like I said, on a week from tomorrow, we're going to get all of our questions answered by Roger Goodell when he announces those names on the stage in Dallas. All right, so continuing on about the draft, I know that everybody has their own rankings when it comes to the quarterbacks. I mean, I like Sam Darnold, obviously. He's got all the tools. He's got the brain between his ears. He's got the inches between his ears, and that's always my coach will tell you. It's all about that 8 inches. It's not about all your intangibles, all your physicality. It's about being able to keep your head in the game, staying focused, being able to have a sound mental ability to be able to control, because you're going to face a lot of adversity in the NFL. Like I was talking about with Rosen. Rosen didn't face that much adversity at UCLA. UCLA football isn't the big. It's more of a basketball school. Honestly, it gets overshadowed by USC football. It's not that much scrutiny. But when you get in the NFL, that city, whatever city you might be in, football is going to be number one likely, and especially in the NFL, it's going to get covered to the T, and you're going to be, and if you're not succeeding, you're going to be in a world of adversity, in a giant cesspool of adversity, and you're going to have to deal with it, and it takes a mental toll on you for sure, and not only a physical toll, but definitely a mental toll. So we'll see how Josh Rosen deals with it. I definitely think Sam Darnold could deal with it, as he's a guy who's come out and had to deal with this subpar or a mediocre offensive coach in Clay Helton, and is definitely, and took that mediocre roster last year to a bowl game and looked pretty good in doing it. I mean, the year before he had a better season because he had better receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster on the outside, but this last season he definitely elevated a team that was likely not nearly as good as what they looked like but they were able to win it because of his win more games because of his quarterback play, especially late in games. So he's definitely my guy. Baker Mayfield, that's probably the guy I'm most interested in seeing how it works out. And also which team he goes to. I know the Jets have really liked him. I don't know how he's going to succeed on in a cold weather stadium and a cold weather conference. I mean, by the way, I feel like by the way, you're going to go to, I'm preaching this one. You're going to go to Miami for one of your road games. You have Baker Mayfield in Miami, which is a great combination, I feel. And then, your other 2 road games are in Buffalo and New England. So that's what I'm thinking. The Jets, why would you just beef up Josh Rosen? Because the Giants aren't going to pick a quarterback. Sam Darnold goes number 1. Giants are taking Barkley because they love him, and they don't like Josh Rosen, and they're basically saying they love Sam Darnold and not like they more than anybody else. So if Sam Darnold goes number 1, they're basically off the hook for a quarterback. So, I mean, if you're the Jets, I think that you got to take a strong look at either Josh Rosen or Jake Allen, because, I mean, those guys are probably more fit for your offense and especially for your stadium and for your conference, for your division when it comes to weather. You got to take all that into account. Jake Allen, yeah, like I said, probably be better in a cold weather stadium. He's going to be a big guy, big bulky guy. I mean, he can definitely withstand. He's played in Wisconsin. In Wyoming. So yeah, and they've definitely had their fair share of cold weather games. So I think he's a guy who definitely could fit better in a cold weather stadium, whether the Bills trade up and get him or the Jets take him at 3. All right, continuing on here as we come to the end of this first segment. I think was there one more quarterback? I mean, obviously we talked about Rosen, we talked about Baker Mayfield. Yeah, Lamar Jackson. I actually did talk about him too. So we talked about kind of all the quarterbacks at the beginning of this show. So as we get to the end of this first segment, second segment, we're going to go through some news that is going and some stuff that's been breaking over the week, this past week, in the college football world. And then in the third segment, like I said, we're going to highlight some. Actually, let's flip flop. Let's go some draft profiling next segment. Then we're going to go the news third segment, and then probably carry into the fourth segment as well. And then maybe the draft profiling goes second and third. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out as we go along. But we're going to get some good segments coming up for you guys in just a moment. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the college football edition, and we're going to highlight some prospects that are going to probably have their names called. Oh, probably they're going to get their names called. These are all top guys. That just depends where they're going to get picked, which round, which pick, which team. And we're going to start with the guy who was playing in Palo Alto during his career in college. That's Justin Reed, the brother of Eric Reed, who's a safety for the Niners. Justin also plays safety. He's definitely a guy. I mean, you can look for. You haven't heard much of him probably in the college rankings, but I mean, in the college throughout the year because of maybe the fact that he plays at Stanford. But you're going to hear about him in the NFL, and he's definitely a guy. He's versatile. He's got the speed, got the quickness to be able to get up on the line. But the big thing for him is he's got that ball awareness, whether it's spotting the ball early out of the quarterback's hand, whether it's a tip ball, something like that. He had 5 picks in his last year at Stanford, but he also is a sure tackler, as a lot of those Stanford guys are. They definitely take pride in being sure tacklers. So Justin Reed, definitely a guy to look at if you on draft day as you go along. Definitely a guy that if your team calls his name, you should be happy with that. So that he is a top guy who probably or definitely can make your defense better, as he also is. I mean, coming out of Stanford, those guys they're all pretty darn smart, and they're all pretty good young men. So you got to be happy if your team calls Justin Reed's name. Continuing on, you got a guy from Oklahoma State. We've talked quarterback a lot. We're going to go back to the quarterback. But this isn't a guy who's gotten all the hype. Mason Rudolph, 3-year starter at Oklahoma State, completed over 60% of his passes throughout his career in Oklahoma, and he actually is a kind of a big game guy, a big clutch performer. He was able to get a bunch of wins late in games, leading his team down the field in the end of games, and is very comfortable doing that. So the only real knock on him is that he's not very mobile, but he can be. I mean, in the quarterbacks, you have to be able to you don't have to be too mobile. You don't see Tom Brady run the read option, but if you can get a guy like Rudolph and he's developed well, he'll probably. I mean, a few years as a backup, but if he's developed well, maybe even in a place like New Orleans or Pittsburgh or something like that. I'm saying those two teams a lot because their quarterbacks are kind of on the way out. Maybe even the Giants want to take him late if they get him maybe late in later rounds. They could develop him behind Eli Manning as a guy who can just, if he feels the rush, can slide around the pocket, has great touch, great accuracy, especially on the deep ball. But definitely a guy you can take a look at if you miss out on the top 4 or top 5 and those sweepstakes up on the top of the draft. The next guy is I want to talk about has been well documented throughout the combine, as he had that blistering 40-yard dash, breaking all the linebacker records, and that's Shaquem Griffin. Had his hand amputated at 4 years old. We talked about how much of an inspirational story he is, but he's also a great football player. I mean, he's watching his film. I mean, he can kind of do everything. He can rush the quarterback from the edge. He can drop into coverage. He has the speed to go side to side. He's a sure tackler. So, yeah, he does have his limitations. Doesn't have the left hand, and he's a little undersized. But if he can find his way onto a special teams roster or onto a roster and be a good special team player, and then find it's maybe into a sub package or second package when they're in obvious passing downs, he can find his way on the field and get after that quarterback, or even be a guy who can disguise coverage and drop back into coverage, or maybe drop back and then come on a delayed blitz. So definitely a guy who can come around in the NFL, and definitely will be. I mean, I've already said he's probably going to get picked within the first 3 rounds. So you'll be seeing Shaquem Griffin. Next guy up, Connor Williams, offensive lineman from Texas. You got to like everything about this guy. I mean, he's been able to be there, and a big offensive lineman there, playing in the Big 12. You got a lot of big quarterbacks in Texas. Haven't been the best, most documented guys, but you have some big guys, big pass rushers there in that Big 12 division, and he's a left tackle who just likes to manhandle guys. He finishes plays. He's there on the left side of that line, and he's been able to be first team All-American back in 2016. So definitely a guy you can look at if you're looking for some more offensive line protection. I know the guy who gets all the rage is Quentin Nelson. He's a guard. This guy, Connor Williams, is a tackle. So he definitely can move well. Good blocker in the running game. Gets up into that second level with the to get the linebackers. Can move well. Has good feet. So when it comes to that shifting zone blocking scheme, that's definitely a guy you want to look at if you're a team that is going to be running a lot. And also, I mean, he's off. You can't knock a left tackle if he's a good pass blocker too. So if your team needs some offensive line help, you're probably going to want them to call Mr. Williams' name, and he'll probably see his name being called within the first couple rounds as well. All right, next guy up from Alabama is Ronnie Harrison. He's obviously coming out of Alabama. Those guys, you got to like those guys. They're all NFL ready. Nick Saban works them hard. The only problem with the Alabama guys is that they do sometimes come a little raggedy. They've been, like I said, worked hard down there in Tuscaloosa, which isn't the worst thing. But they're all going to be ready. I mean, he's definitely a guy who's going to be on that secondary, can blitz from the corner position, can blitz from that slot, finds that quarterback very well, but then also can cover on defense. I mean, he's going to play kind of that slot, I mean, smaller linebacker position, but definitely gets those tackles up. He's a sure tackler, over 150 tackles in the last 2 seasons. As he sits on that slot, he's got 7 picks in those 3 seasons at Alabama. You got to look at that. Ronnie Harrison there from Alabama is a guy to watch on draft day. See where he goes, as he can kind of be versatile. He's definitely a versatile guy, as he definitely can find his way to the quarterback, but also can drop back into coverage when necessary. Always so many people. I've marked all these guys. I mean, you even got guys, all these SEC guys are really good. Even from Auburn, you got a guy named Carlton Davis. I mean, those guys down in Auburn, you play tough SEC competition. You're going to face these quarterbacks that can, I mean, all different kinds of offenses, but whether it's a quarterback that drops back in the passer, like you see at Ole Miss or at Mississippi State, or a guy like a running guy like Jalen Hurts. So Carlton Davis is a safety from Auburn, has great speed, great ball awareness, can also get the sure tackler, almost, I mean, about 150 tackles in his career at Auburn, but also can cover that deep ball well. He's got the great speed and ball awareness to knock that ball away. The only thing is he's a little undersized, but when you're a secondary guy, you just you can use that leverage and ability to wrap up. And I mean, watching his film, it's nice. You can tell he's a very good tackler, but also has the speed to get those ball stills and can get those picks, interceptions as well. If you're looking for a safety in the mid parts of this draft. Carlton Davis out of Auburn is definitely somebody to look at if you're just trying to will your team to get the guy that you want. Because not like these guys, you guys are making the picks. But, you never know. Some GMs listening to my show. You never know that. GMs, listen up. Listen to my guys that I'm talking about. It's just, no, I don't know. Yeah, GMs listen to the show. College Football Edition of this GSMC Football Podcast. All right, next up, Taven Bryan. He's a defensive lineman coming out of Florida. He had a nice little season coming out there. And another SEC guy can push that middle, rush the middle of the. I mean, it's not really a protocol nose tackle position anymore. It's more just interior defensive lineman. But he's got that great time off the quickness off the snap. Has the speed to get to the sideline if you have a swing play or can get off those blocks. I mean, he was a 2017 second team All SEC. Has great ability to wrap up, get that ball, knock the ball out, has good awareness of where the ball is, and knocking the ball out of the guy's hands. And then obviously, when it comes to rushing the quarterback, who doesn't like rushing the quarterback, especially from a guy who's got the strength like this guy, can get to the quarterback, Taven Bryan. So definitely keep an eye out for him when it comes to draft day next week. We're so close to it. All right, next up, another guy from the SEC from Alabama, Rashaan Evans. I mean, I can talk about Alabama guys all day long. There's a lot of them who are going to be coming out. They're basically their whole defense is just packed with NFL talent, just all over the place. And Evans is another guy, a linebacker from him. He played next to played kind of in that position where you had Reuben Foster last year, and he got drafted. He can come down on the line of scrimmage. He can play behind the defensive line in a more of a 2-point stance, kind of just crouching in that middle linebacker position. So he's definitely versatile. He had 74 tackles last season in 2017, 13 for a loss. So, I mean, and also over his career, he can come off that corner for definitely for a speed rusher for sacks. He got 15 sacks in his career at Alabama. So you got to like a guy like that. If you're not looking at, if you miss out pretty much on Roquan Smith out of Georgia, I think this is your next pick from Alabama's his name, Rashaan Evans. So look up for that name on draft day. If your team grabs him, you'll be getting a good little linebacker. All right, next up from Georgia, we're going to go back to the offensive side. Isaiah Wynn, offensive lineman from Georgia. He's a big guy. I mean, you can tell he's definitely got the smarts, got the ability. I mean, the offensive linemen, some people say they're the smartest guys on the field other than the quarterback because they do. It's all about the blocking scheme, all about the protections. This is your offensive lineman, left tackle, no left tackle. We're highlighting. We got Williams, but this is Isaiah Wynn from Georgia. Started all 15 games last season for the Bulldogs at left tackle. Definitely a guy who can move. Got that nice wide base. I mean, that's always talking when we think about the blind side. You got to have a wide base and quick feet. And this guy, when you're pulling from that left tackle position, you got to be able to get to your blocks and hold those blocks for a while. And he's definitely a guy who can do that when it's great upper body strength, and definitely a guy who can not only pass block, but can block on the running game too. That's what you're going to do. Well, all these guys can pass block, but when it comes to run blocking and being able to get guys and creating holes for your running backs, that's the big deal when it comes to the NFL. All right, next guy is from this is from the NC State. Actually, we're going over the ACC. Next guy up is BJ Hill. Definitely, we're going back to the defensive side. He's an interior lineman. He's a guy who's quick to the arm, quick to the quarterback, and get inside. Has the quick skills of the ball. I mean, it's just crazy watching these films of these guys who just jump off the line when that ball is snapped. I mean, they read that ball so well when they jump off the line and get off the quarterback. So look for him on draft day as well as we continue to roll on. Tremaine Edmonds, he's going to be probably a top 10 pick, whether he's going to go to maybe 9th or 10th or maybe even 8th. He's a linebacker guy from Virginia Tech. Likes to be right behind that defensive line. He's going to be looking right down into the quarterback's eyes, reading that quarterback, getting after the quarterback if he's going to be on more of a delayed blitz. They're going to create blitzes for him. His dad played in the NFL, played for the Dolphins, comes from an NFL family. He's got great instincts in that center, middle linebacker position, and some great sure tackling as well. So you got to like him coming out of Virginia Tech. And also, I mean, his whole family looks like he's playing for the NFL. I have marked down here. Even his brother got picked as a running back played for the Saints. So you got to like Jermaine Edmonds as he comes out of Virginia Tech. Next up, Sony Michel. This is definitely a guy who I've talked about a lot. Sony Michel, love Sony Michel. Got some great speed. Definitely a speed back. Can get through there. I mean, he had almost 8 yards per rush in 2017, which was good for fifth in the FBS. So, I mean, put on a show in the college football playoff. Almost won that game for Georgia himself, as he was the offensive MVP of that Rose Bowl against Oklahoma to get them to the championship game. And you gotta love him. Sony Michel. I mean, quick guy, can catch the ball outside of the backfield and knows how to find those blocks. Can slither on through those blocks in whatever fashion you need him to do, whether it's coming through on a screen or maybe it's counter play or just a dive play through the middle. So gotta like Sony Michel. All right, coming into this segment, we're going to come back with more prospects. We're going to do some more prospects before we get to our college football off the field news. We're going to stay on the field as long as we can here. We're going to stay healthy before we have to leave the field with our some of the more news that came out since the last show. So when we come back, we'll do some more prospect reviews, and we'll be right back with that in just a moment.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we are back with the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the college football edition. We have been going over some college football prospects that you probably want your team to say on draft day. They're all going to get their names called, whether it's Thursday, Friday, or Saturday in Dallas. But these guys you definitely want your teams to call their name. Next guy up is Isaiah Oliver. He definitely a guy who you want somebody to pick up here as we come closer and closer to the draft. I mean, I just can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait till this draft starts. I just want to find out where these quarterbacks are going to go. It's just ridiculous. We have to keep waiting and waiting. But when you're talking about a guy like Isaiah Oliver, he's a defensive back. I mean, a guy who can just definitely finds those ways through the defense, can over on the corner, can cover your corner, definitely has the speed to stay with the receivers down the sideline. I mean, all these guys in the Pac-12, you got some fast receivers out there in the Pac-12, so definitely got some good ball skills and ability to locate the ball, high point of the ball in the air, even when he's in coverage or whether he's on coverage out of out of Colorado. A defensive unit that actually really improved in the last season. So you got to like the fact that he's coming off of a year where he impressed a lot of people. All right, next is Darius Guy. I've talked about a lot of already. Running back out of LSU. I mean, you got to like him. He's probably going to get picked within those first couple rounds. A guy, definitely a running back who is behind Leonard Fournette. I mean, he's in his whole career, he averages 6.5 yards per carry. I mean, so that's crazy to sustain that over a whole 3-year career, even being behind Leonard Fournette for a couple of years at LSU. So And he's also, he's broken a lot of records. Only guy in SEC history to have 250 yards in 3 different games. So definitely somebody to look for, as he's got the speed and also the ability to get through those tight little holes. The only problem is his size. He's a little short in stature, but he's got the strong legs and quick ability to be able to get through pretty much any hole that you need and break some tackles that obviously will be happening. You got some fast guys out there in the NFL, so hoping he can pop quickly in the NFL and be a rookie to watch there. So another guy, we're going back to staying on offense, the offensive line. Billy Price, his center from Ohio State, definitely got to look at. First team All-American last year. Rules that offensive line. When you're a center, you got to have all the knowledge. You're calling all the blocking protections. You got to have a good quarterback relationship with your quarterback. Obviously, you got to be a good snapping of the ball, but no, that's not kind of the deal. Is the fact that you're going to be snapping the ball, popping out, blocking your guy, but then also having the ability to manage that offensive line, being the quarterback of that offensive line, and helping your quarterback get that blocking scheme protection out correctly. He's also a guy who stays healthy, as he had 55 consecutive starts for Ohio State out there in Columbus. All right, is that everybody I wrote down? I had a lot of different guys. I was going through all my lists, and there's a lot of different guys we had written down. There's a lot of prospects out there. There's lots and lots of good talent out there in the NFL. One more guy I was going to talk about. I actually write him down. Just saw him out of the corner of my eye. Actually, looking at my news, they were talking about him a lot coming into this draft. Is Harold Landry out of Boston College, a guy who can just get after you, whether it's on that edge rusher coming off the outside. He's got the quickness. Again, these guys who they just put that hand down. They get the good jump off the offensive line from that wide side on that defensive line where they got four down linemen. Puts his head down, gets that shoulder down. Almost reminds me of like a Von Miller type off that edge from Boston College. Definitely got to look at. That's where you got to find those guys, even from the small schools. He was second team AP All-American a couple years ago, so you got to look at that. He's got the speed, quickness, ability to not only come after the quarterback, but then the ability to, whether he sees a quick pass, jump back, get the arms up, got great hands and great size, ability, got long arms, and able to knock passes down or make an interception if needed or if able. All right, another quarterback to talk about is Luke Falk out of Washington State. Actually, Washington State had a nice little season last year. They were a bowl team, and they were giving fits to a lot of different teams in the throughout the Pac-12. You got, obviously, Coach Leach out there with that big offense. Like to throw the ball at spread offense. But Luke Falk, quarterback, again, another guy who's not been talked about, has a little bit less arm talent than those other guys, but has the size and the pocket awareness, definitely ability, where he was, able to earn first team All Pac-12 in 2015. And has definitely got in the end zone a bunch of times and is able to fit balls in those small windows, and also has the touch to be able to find a receiver back on the back of the end zone on those back shoulder fades, or even be able to get the ball dropped into a bucket along the sideline. So, you got to like all that kind of stuff. And he's got the ability to move around in the pocket a little bit, but just a pretty protocol pocket passer, but definitely has the athletic ability to have escapability in the pocket and then continue to extend plays throughout the game and make plays for you as you continue trying to figure out ways. These NFL teams, like now, they're basically, it's all about either first, second read, you have your progression, obviously. In college is a little different. So your first read's gone, okay, now you got to figure something out. Especially for a guy like Falk or like Mason Rudolph, who comes out of an air raid system or a spread offense system where the verbiage isn't quite as advanced as you see in the NFL. They definitely have to learn some of that stuff and get that stuff down as they continue on in their careers. But in the NFL, if you have that natural ability to have some escapability in the pocket, if you go through your progression and nothing's there, you can feel the pressure around you in the pocket. Like I mean, like a Tom Brady or like a Russell Wilson does. They kind of just feel around them with the ball, while also keeping their eyes down the field. You can see plays develop in front of you as you extend them with your legs, and can make some nice plays as you continue on throughout the game. And that's what they're looking for in the NFL. That's why I think Sam Darnold is such a highly touted guy, because he can not only is he a pocket passer, but he can be a guy who could do that, like I just described, when he feels things around him. Kind of Carson Wentz. I don't see anybody do it a lot better than Carson Wentz when it comes to feeling pressure around you and then being able to evade it, and then recenter yourselves, get a new launch point where your feet are set and able to get a good throw off. Because I mean, it's all about your feet. Quarterback is a lot about feet. So you got to be careful. You got to watch that stuff. All right, last guy. I think was there one more guy on here? I'm looking at all my notes here. I have a big long list. We got B.J. Hill. He was a defensive lineman out of. Where was he? Oh, I wrote him down. Where'd he go? I saw his name. I have all the schools in a different list here. Oh, there's B.J. Hill. Out of NC State as well. Definitely a guy who you could look at if you're looking for help on the defensive line. Can get after that quarterback for sure, as he comes after you from that interior lineman spot. Got some serious strength, got nice size, strong legs, fast off the take. I mean, NC State's defensive freshman of the year in 2014, started the rest of his games and stayed in college. You know, those guys, I like those guys who stay in college a lot. It means they just get more reps. The longer you stay in college, the longer you get more reps you get. You get a sub 5 40-yard dash at the combine, which is nice for a defensive lineman. And I like all that, because I mean, these guys can tackle. These guys have strong arms, but if you can get to the point of the tackle, is the real question. Is what makes you a good player. Next up, I think we didn't cover Isaiah Oliver. Actually, there's one more guy I had written down. We have on here another guy out of Colorado, another defensive back out of Colorado. Oh, we covered Isaiah Oliver. We already did him. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I was just going through my list here. Everybody's all kind of jumbled up. We've been talking about a lot of quarterbacks, so I wanted to just get offensive, defense all figured out here. But yeah, we kind of went through everybody. What a good list of the guys we got here. And there's obviously more players. There's lots of picks we're going to see coming out in the NFL. I think was there one more on here? Did we cover Jair Alexander? I don't think we did. There's one more guy. Yeah, he was a great player out of South Carolina. I'm sorry, out of. I misread his little jersey there. I mean, it's just like I have it written down, but he has out of Louisville. Those same colors. I thought I wrote down wrong. I thought I wrote down right, but I didn't. He's out of Louisville. I was watching his film. He's got some great ball awareness, got some great speed, recovery speed. And that's the only thing when you're talking about defensive backs. You're going to be able to you're going to might get beat here and there. When we're talking about defensive backs, only take on him. He did miss 7 games last year in 2017. Got some great skills on the punt return skills. Got some great speed. The thing is about talking about recovery speed. Also, speed kills on the special team. So you can be a guy who can get picked up as a special teamer, to be a weapon to be used as a punt returner, to get some points that way for the NFL. Always points at a premium when you're in the NFL, and it's nice to get something. Having a dynamic guy to be a punt returner who you can make teams definitely be aware of on defense when it comes to in their kicking game, whether it's kickoffs or punts. So definitely got to look at. Also can play a mean corner with some good recovery speed, even if it gets beat on a play. Hit a 4.38 40-yard dash. You got to like that. So guy who's pretty darn fast. All right, that's pretty much it for my list. As I was kind of jumbling through, I was wanted to get those guys all kind of linked up by conference. I was always jumping around a lot with the offensive defense, but all those guys are going to be NFL players pretty soon here. Next week, man and women out there listening to this lovely show. We are so close, and it's going to be pretty awesome being able to cover all of this stuff here on the GSMC Podcast Network. Bringing you all of the information and news coming out for the draft. We're going to have, I bet you, some stuff breaking coming through this final week as we lead up to the draft, as there always is. Probably likely some trades if they don't come on draft day, draft week. We're going to do some more reviews on some players and probably talk about our quarterbacks even more and more, as you cannot vet your quarterback enough. I urge you cannot vet your quarterback enough when it comes to who you're going to be able to give the keys to your franchise to, because you're also, not only are you giving the keys to the franchise to, but you're paying, especially if you pick them up early in that round, you got to think about it. Each draft position has an amount of money tagged to it. They're all slotted out. So the earlier you draft somebody, the more money obviously you're going to be giving them. It's all slotted out already when it comes to these rookie contracts and signing bonuses and such. So it's already pretty much taken care of depending on where you pick somebody. So a team could make a team decide on who they pick and where they pick them. So in the next segment, we're going to go over some stuff that happened off the field and other stuff regarding some authoritative issues, some police action regarding the quarterback at Florida State, DeAndre Francois, and also some stuff surrounding some threats around Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. So we're going to be going over that, and I'll give you my thoughts on all that stuff when we come back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the GSMC football. It's not fantasy football. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do have a fantasy football show hosted by yours truly. So be sure to go tune into that one if you like get your fantasy football news. There are some draft implications on that too. See where are you going to pick Saquon Barkley? Is Saquon Barkley going to go in your second round of your fantasy draft? You have to tune into my show on Tuesdays and Thursdays to find out. But this is the college football edition of the GSMC Football Show, of course, as you have been listening to for the last 45 minutes. Thank you very much. In the last segment, we're going to be talking about some stuff off the field, though, some news that came out. Jim Harbaugh has received, looks like, some threats that the police are going to be getting into. They're going to be looking into threats involving Jim Harbaugh, whether it's threats that were made by players, or made by different Michigan students or different just people around Michigan. But there was a string of Twitter posts on Monday night from one account that mentioned Michigan does have an open carry law for firearms, and something to do with calling the morgue. I mean, just what is going on here? I mean, it's kind of Harbaugh's Twitter handle was tagged as a part of the posts. They have been deleted since then. However, they do raise some red flags, as you have to be careful there. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's, he hasn't been able to get that really going over in Ann Arbor, but doesn't really mean he needs to pay the piper for it quite yet. I mean, it's just they got to keep these guys safe. So I mean, whether the police are going to be taking action in general, or it's going to be looking into the possible origin of where these threats came from, you definitely got to take those seriously, because you don't want to have anything happen to Jim Harbaugh if you're a Michigan fan. He's a good coach, and he's going to figure it out over there. And you don't need to take. Violence is not the answer. You can go whine, call your favorite radio station, give your Jim Harbaugh roast, but let's keep it PG here, people. I mean, we don't need to. Yeah, I know Michigan's got an open carry firearms law, but it's getting ridiculous. I mean, we're getting the police involved into this kind of stuff. I mean, we need to keep this away from football. We're just talking about sports here. It's just college sports. These are kids trying to get an education here and maybe start their lives, get into the NFL, what have you. Not all of them do, obviously. especially this Michigan team doesn't look like many guys are, at least on the offensive side. But no. Even being here out in California as a fan of the teams out here in California, Jim Harbaugh was a coach out here. I mean, he's a good coach. I mean, he's a good guy. Watched a lot of Jim Harbaugh press conferences. Been able to see him. He's great with the fans. He has his normal outfit. We even saw fans when he was an Irish coach. He had his khakis and his pullover. I mean, he had people trying to imitate him. And I think I may have even worn a Jim Harbaugh quote-unquote outfit during Halloween. Never know. To one of the Halloween parties I went to back in college. But yeah, you got to be careful with that. But definitely you got to be careful when it comes to just all these threats in general. People can get in their heads, get some bad stuff going on in their heads, get some bad thoughts, and you don't want to be taking it out on your college football, on your coach at the college football team. So definitely be careful. But just do be careful with that kind of stuff. I mean, we've had reports out now for a couple of days saying that this has happened, and now the University Police Department, the deputy chief, said she couldn't go into details, but her department definitely is involved, and it's an ongoing investigation regarding the public safety and the safety of the team and of the head football coach himself, Mr. Jim Harbaugh. Definitely, he's been mentioned in some threatening tweets. All right, so continuing on with some police action. Now we're going down to Florida. It's been reported that DeAndre Francois actually, he's come out and said that the weed that was found in his apartment is actually belonged to his girlfriend. They did do a raid of his apartment. The police, or was it whether it was the FBI or the police department down there in Orlando or in Tallahassee, did a raid of his apartment. They found a baby less than a ounce of marijuana last Thursday. I mean, they're saying he's recuperating from that torn tendon in his knee. He's kind of just sitting at home, can't really do any workouts, can't do any football action. So, I mean, I'm not going to comment on what he could be doing to fill up his time, but he is claiming, Francois is claiming that the drugs did belong to his girlfriend. They do share an apartment. He was cited with a misdemeanor for possession and given a chance to pay a pretrial fine to go to the diversion enter a fine, and then go to the diversion program, which is like a drug awareness program kind of thing. Same thing. They do the same kind of thing for alcohol. He is expected to be the starter for the Seminoles. Willie Taggart coming into his first season as the head coach at Florida State. We have talked about Florida State a lot on this show regarding whether it's their quarterback controversy or competition with Blackman and some other players that are coming in to try and vie for that quarterback job. But Taggart has said that he is quoted in this from ESPN saying that he is still part of their team and is looking to be their starter for next year. As it kind of sucks when you have to get caught up into this stuff as a coach, especially in your first season. I mean, he's still with our football team. We talked about his responsibility as a student athlete here, and he understands my expectations and what I'm looking for, especially when it comes to our quarterback. So, I mean, the police did actually sit. There were reports the police did kind of stalk the apartment for seemingly 2 months, and they collected his garbage at the between the end of February and beginning of April. So it looks like, that's interesting to say the least. There, I mean, it's just said it was found in garbage bags. They found different residue of the cannabis and of different kind of ways to consume the drug, whether it's through a roll. I mean, different. I'm not going to go into it, but you know what I mean. They found different paraphernalia when it comes to that. I mean, that's going through the guy's trash. I don't know how much you have to do that, but it must be just Florida for you. But it's okay. Out there in Florida, make the rules you want to do. But just I don't know why people have to. That seems like a little bit of overkill. That's just my opinion over here. All right, as we come to the end, we got a few more minutes left in the show here. Maybe do a couple more updates here as Alabama gets a pledge from a big prospect to go to their school. We got the ex head coach of Florida now going back to Michigan. Jim McElwain will now be joining the coaching staff at Michigan for Jim Harbaugh, and it will help with their wide receivers as they need to get that offense figured out. I don't know if it's the receivers, but they need to figure out a quarterback. I mean, they're going to have, I think, a transfer. I talked about it in the last episode. They're going to have a transfer coming into Ann Arbor to fight for that job. They had what's the guy? I mean, Spate, Wilton Spate, to transfer out of the school, so he's headed elsewhere, and they're going to have Jim McElwain come in and help with the wide receivers, and maybe give a little break to the help to the quarterbacks vying for that job. Get some good receivers out there on the outside that can make the lives of the quarterback a little bit easier as they come to throwing the ball down the field and getting some offense, because that's the one problem one thing Michigan's had issues with is getting that offense figured out and getting clicks. I mean, that's continuing on saying it over and over again, the fact that Jim Harbaugh is yet to find a quarterback to groom and find a quarterback to call his own, because he's the quarterback guy. I mean, like we keep saying, he turned Colin Kaepernick into a Super Bowl quarterback, found him out of Nevada, second-round pick, and turned him into a Super Bowl vying for quarterback. Probably should have won the Super Bowl. But no, he's back in Michigan and has yet to figure out. I thought he probably had a guy with Wilton Spate, but injuries and such kind of fizzled that one out. And even their backup for Spate had injuries as well. So they're going to have a guy coming in from, I think, Tennessee or A&M. I think it's one of those T schools. I read it. It was from last week. I need to look at my notes from last week. But coming in to be a viable starter for a guy competing for the starting job at Michigan as a transfer. And I'm trying to say he's a transfer coming in. He had to sit out for that 1 year last year, and now he's going to be coming in to take over that job in Ann Arbor. All right. As we get to the end of this show here, I'm just going to go over what we talked about today. We had a lot of stuff today, actually. We talked a lot about some of these guys that you probably haven't heard of yet. We talked about Shaquem Griffin for a while. We did go over my thoughts on some more quarterback stuff going into this draft on Thursday, a week from tomorrow. We're getting so close to this draft. I mean, I can almost taste it. It's right there, and it's going to be a big one, as this is going to be the first time we're going to have a draft in a stadium, actually, as it's going to be held at Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington. So you gotta like that, and gotta like all these players. We're gonna have a lot of players who are going to be representing their schools and themselves, it looks like now, as they are going to be a bunch of guys have been invited to the draft to come out and walk onto the stage and give old Roger Goodell a big bear hug and hold up their New Jersey and their team. I mean, there's so much speculation you can make regarding where these guys are going to go. It's crazy. I mean, it's hard to figure out what's going to happen. But I mean, we know Shaquem Griffin is going to be going at least probably third round, if not earlier. We're going to see 4 quarterbacks likely in the first 10 picks. And I mean, if we have the trades that happen, we're going to get some good running backs. This is a very deep running back draft. I'm going to see where all those running backs go. I'm going to be very interested in seeing where all those running backs go. We're going to talk about it, especially the show after the draft on Friday, after the first round on Friday. It's going to be a big show. We're going to go over all the first round stuff and seeing where our favorite college players ended up in the NFL. As I said, the draft is a great time to talk about both college football and the NFL at the same time, as these players will be graduating up to the highest ranks of football you possibly can, and likely will be either a guy, if you're picked in the first few rounds, you're going to be getting paid pretty well and getting a chance to start on a team, and be a guy that a team has gone and got and been highly touted and wanted. If you're a guy maybe later in the draft, you're a guy that fell, you're going to be fighting for a spot on a roster or on a team where you're going to get special teams and be able to impress in different ways. I mean, I'm still looking forward to seeing who's going to be on Hard Knocks this year and seeing which rookies get to be get to be showcased on that HBO special show. I know right now we have the Hey Rookie, Welcome to the NFL. We have Saquon Barkley and Bradley Chubb on there. So if you guys want to go hear them talk about what they're doing on a lead up to the draft, be sure to go tune into that one. I think it's over on NFL Network. So you can get all of that information regarding Saquon and how he feels about where he should be drafted and that. So we're going to wrap it up for this show. It's been a good one talking about a lot of different prospects. We'll be back on Friday afternoon or Friday morning with another episode for another college football edition for this GSMC College Football Podcast on Friday. So until then, everybody have a good time, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.